Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to Vicky 3. It's episode number 11. It's already 1919. We have not had a major world war. There has been at least one large war, of course, that involved Germany taking Tunisia from us. I think that was probably the largest world war that the game has seen yet. Even then, I don't think you would call that one a world war. So, nothing major yet. And a lot of what we're seeing around the world resembles the world as we know it, at least to an extent. Russia is certainly the same Russia we know, and Great Qing is certainly the same that we know. But there are variants. France, well, that's the one we know, French Republic, plus, Northern Africa. That seems to be relatively standard for them, but this is not the typical Spain. The British Republic is also not the typical British Republic. It very much has a different feel to it than what you would expect. But Scandinavia is united, though Denmark is excluded. Canada is the same Canada. The U.S. is mostly the same U.S., though Mexico holds a little bit of it. Brazil is a pretty standard Brazil. In fact, South America is relatively standard. There's a couple variations. Australia, that's just a revolt. Otherwise, Australia is its normal self. Japan is fully united. And I think the biggest exception in the world to what is normal, to what is standard, is us. The Ottomans would still be the Ottomans and not Turkey, and until shortly anyway. And we're obviously much larger than what would be expected. But compared to earlier playthroughs of Victoria 3, I've definitely found that with the movement towards 1.6, and I certainly remember this with, well, pretty much any Paradox development studio title. EU4, great example. I've logged more hours in EU4 than any other game all time. When EU4 first came out, it's a shell of what it eventually becomes. There's so many added and changed and altered and developed, fleshed out components of a game such as that. And this one's starting to look more and more that type of direction now that we're well over a year and a half almost into the development cycle here of Vicky 3. The more that's added in, the more complex it gets, the harder the game gets. Even though it's hard to pick up when you first pick it up, and it takes a little bit to get used to the mechanics, because, we all know the old saying about Paradox Development Studio games. It takes 1,000 hours just to get the hang of it, let alone master it. And, yeah, that's right, because EU4 is still a game that I've never mastered. There are masters out there for it. I'm not one of them. I'd be pretty damn good at the game and still be awful at the game. Or average, or mediocre, or great. I don't know where you fit in compared to the average player. What is the average player? Is the average player all with 10,000 hours? I don't know. Anyway, the more they add to the game, the more challenging it becomes. And we're definitely seeing that here, because it used to be a lot easier to paint the map than it is now. There's a lot more repercussions. There's a lot more obstacles. There's a lot getting in your way of truly moving up the rankings. Now, the Ottoman Empire and the sick man of Europe, we should have been in decline. We have negated that. We have sustained ourselves. The Suez survey is nearly done, but now we're dealing with this issue of the positive stage, and that's one of the many ways that it just keeps you on your toes. It doesn't allow you to just simply take off and grow and expand and paint the map quite easily once you overcome one or two minor obstacles. It finds ways to continually hit you with one after another. I'd say our biggest obstacle of this entire playthrough has been the local governors. My goal today is going to go primarily around that Suez survey, and then the positive stage, that's still got a ways to go, and doing expansion where we can. Our infamy is at just 5, and I've already seen that Kalat we do not have a truce with them. And it's less than 5 infamy, and it looks like no one is set to join them. So we're going to go for it. Alright, Suez survey is completed. Let's go ahead and see what happens in the follow-up to this event that we picked out and started along. There's the we will build the canal. Construction is now available. So for construction of the Suez Canal, we have one small obstacle on our way, and that is French Sinai, which was ours. We had the entire state once upon a time. Now, to get the defensive pact and then eventually to get the alliance, I had to promise a favor to France. They cashed that in by taking that port from us. So, they hold the port. They construct the canal. So we're going to have to find a way to be able to, I don't know, trade states maybe? And war has broken out with Kalat. They have put some of their forces on this little eastern pocket. I have ignored the other two areas and just taken the primary front with just a single army because, I mean, come on, this is going to be easy. They have 4 armies present here and one on a separate front. That one isn't even taking it quickly. We're already beginning to advance. Our offense is rated at a 40. Their defense is in the mid-20s. So it's a easy situation for us. Meanwhile, we are slowly making friends with Persia, who we are now protectorate status over. I would like to upgrade that at some stage because they would become our most valuable puppet. How they haven't claimed this little pocket, though, they should have gotten it by now. One army and we're not defending it. Like, I get that 53 regiments are going to be more effective than one, but it's such a small pocket. They should have gotten it. Well, they never did claim that tiny little pocket, and we do claim the entirety of the state. This will tick down to negative 100 very quickly, already at minus 36. Now, the problem with trying to go after Afghanistan is it's under British rule. That kind of blocks us from proceeding north. Sindh may be an option. Oman may be an option. And continued attempt to control all of Persia may be an option. However, they still have a defensive pact with Russia, and I think that's going to block us off from going that particular direction. But the infamy is already low, under 7. Meanwhile, we've jumped 4 million in GDP in half a year. 35% in the literacy and climbing. Standard of living also climbing up to 63rd now. It was 70 not long ago. Now 62nd, just as we're looking at it. So we are definitely making some rapid progress in areas that are absolutely good for our well-being. But what else can we do? What else is there? I think more rapid research might be a good thing for us. We have 17 universities. We don't even have anything beyond the philosophy department unlocked. Getting away from clergymen will certainly help us out a little bit. Let's get more academics involved and expand our universities. Oman has begun embargoing us. I'm wondering if they've just decided they wanted to be our next play. 1 infamy. They don't even have a unit. There's 2 states, though. So we'll see. It looks like nobody's going to join in. They might even agree to it. So that begins with a move here. We have 3. We will not take that. Transfer those 3. Let's get a proper army in there. We don't need a big one, though. So we'll just take the 30 here of 3rd Army. Have a feeling they may want to back down on this. For infamy to get the secondary state. Oman's been broken down in stages throughout this playthrough. Britain has taken some of it. We have taken multiple parts of it on multiple occasions. And we may yet still be facing... Ooh, okay. Afghanistan has sided with Oman. Oh, this is good. This is good. We found a path to get Afghanistan now, potentially. And they've got a decent number of armies. Let's go ahead and take our 10th and put it on that front. We're going to wait till pretty late before the additional war goals are placed on Afghanistan. But as they're fearful, I would think Afghanistan's going to be kind of pushing. Great Qing's the one we need to back down. Once Great Qing backs down, none of these others are going to be a threat. So we're looking on Great Qing, but we also have our timer. We're going to have to pause before we cross over this line. Great Qing is still there. Oh, I saw another one go down. One more day. That's cannot wait any further. Great Qing is still waiting. This could be a huge nervous moment. I've got some nervous energy right now for sure, but we're going to add war goal. Conquer state. 30. That's not a dangerous zone. We'll begin with... Actually, I'm going to go with Eastern because it gives you Kokand and Bukhara first. Do we have enough? Yes, okay, we do have enough to go for both. But this is then Afghanistan could force the back down. Great Qing could join in. Or we have a pause for 10 days, so there's a little more time. 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day. Nothing's happening. Escalation continues. Oh, Great Qing. We're past that. They're still on the fence, but there. That's it. Okay. Sweet. We're going to get Afghanistan out of this and all of Oman. I think... Oh, then Oman backs down in the end. Damn it! They back down in the end. We've seen that. Before. So, we end up with 12 infamy out of that. Some of what we had placed sticks around. Some of it goes away. But Afghanistan remains there. They did convince them to back down. So we get the rest of this state. Do we have this? Yes, it's incorporating. Ooh, bolt action rifle. That's a big moment. I want to get that trench infantry. We need some serious upgrades here. Okay, we're going to need oil before we can make use of bolt action rifles. Wow, we are a long ways off from pump jacks and getting oil in general. Steam donkey and dynamite. And then pump jacks. So it's going to be a few years. And this is where I'm kind of getting nervous of like, whoa, wait a second. Things are a lot tougher than one would think. I think it's time for a Navy rework. We're still on torpedo boats. Or no, we're on to torpedo boats. But right now we still have frigates. To get to torpedo boats, though, we are going to need to move on to ironclads. So change is imminent. Let's go ahead and do the whole thing. It's down from over 50%, but the armed forces definitely rule the nation. They are the ones in control these days. And they do like us. That helps. The move for ironclads is definitely on. It's ticking up. So we need to start shifting towards that, but not necessarily immediately. The transition is complete, and I've got the ironclads back into a positive balance, so That's going by just fine. In the meantime, silk's really the only thing that's hurting. And then engines, we are working on some engine industries right now. That's nearly done, the last of those. Tools was one that was a little behind. It's barely behind, but we're getting some more tools completed as well. Uh, Paper has the slightest balance, but yeah, silk is the only one right now, along with, I suppose, wood. Well, we've really lucked out with, what, two, three, quiet, three almost quiet years here on the positive stage. It has not had a single event trigger, and we're down to 4 years for that to time out. Either way, there's a bad outcome, but it's which one is worse. Um, the the positives in control is worse than them being a peculiar cult. They can give us some issues, especially depending on who decides to join them. But as long as they remain quiet for now, I'm liking our chances of dealing with them pretty effectively, as we've now grown to 85 million in our GDP, up from number 9 to number 8. We've also gained another percentage point in the literacy, so we're at 36 now. Still only 119 though. I mean, we are so far behind in our national literacy. Uh, haven't changed much in standard of living in the last little bit. I've only done a handful of food ones since we started this playthrough, so we need to make sure we dip into the others just a little bit as we go along. But we are up to number 7 now. We have passed Spain. The U.S. is still not done. So the U.S. has had back-to-back revolts. This time it's the bourgeoisie who have revolted, and then the U.S. itself, still ranked number 6, is hurting on their prestige otherwise. But we are now clearly, officially, ahead of Spain and moving on up. Nearly to 1500, and 1535 is where we would become a great power. So we are drawing ever closer to that moment. It's been a long time since we were at great power status. Whoa. What do you mean make protectorate in Persia? How can they, if I'm already the protectorate in Persia? Oman. They're going for Oman. Okay. I'm okay with that. It's the final Oman state. I was gonna say, how in the world would you do that? Reduce autonomy is no. They still won't accept, even though they do like us now. Moldavia is one that I think is not quite 61% chance. Still has Russia. Russia is now at 16,889. We're at 14,000. So we still do not quite have the advantage over Russia. I've got a lot of construction planned out for the next little bit, from silk plantations to logging camps to furniture, textile mills, expansions, but also some more construction. And I'm going to bump up at least some of this to the top of the list. In fact, I think I might just bump it all up. Let's get the construction done first so we can construct all that faster. Oman has backed down, but they've had a revolt once again. So now they've got a bit of a mess on their hands, huh? I wonder about Sind. What is Sind's status? Well, Great Qing might be involved if you try something with Sind. I haven't looked at laws for a while, and there's probably something we could be doing. I've been worried about this positive stage and just trying to get through it in the short term. So one thing I do want to do, though, is absolutely bump up education access, even though we are progressing pretty rapidly through it right now. It's we're still 117th, right? We've still gained 3% in 3 years. Sure, that's nice. But we could do better. We could do better. So we're going to try to help that along. I mean, when we look at our map, holy crap, we are bad compared to Europe. I mean, so is Russia, for that matter. But look how educated, how literate Persia is. One thing I don't want to forget about is we don't need to necessarily go through Moldavia to get Russia. Egypt could be an easy target for us, but again, we got to just watch that Russia has that 16,000. We've got to be stronger. Egypt doesn't even have a regiment. They're just completely reliant on the fact that Russia has units. But we're still 2,000 behind Russia. Now, we may be able to end up getting France into the war with us. And that would make it rather easy. But we may not. I need to be stronger than Russia before we take Russia on. Now, we don't know that Russia has huge reserves like we do. We got 41 million in reserves, and we can afford to have our army mobilized. But the research that I'm doing right now, in fact, I think next up for us is trench. Yeah, trench works. We're 4 months away, so we are going to be able to turn our infantry up to the next level here in a moment, and that's going to give us a ton of extra. Also, our infamy is down to 3, so we are right there, right on the verge of potentially having a massive war with Russia. Currently, triple eights, 88.8, and quadruple eights if you count that our rank is 8th. Interesting position to be in. But we are up to number 6 in the rankings now. We are coming up on that 1500. The number has bumped though from 1535 to 1585. So we've picked up 50 of the prestige. We picked up 50 of the 100 prestige that we needed, but now we need another 50. So now it's 50 of 150 that we needed. So we still got a little ways to go yet, but we're pulling clear of Spain and the United States have lost a ton of prestige and are all the way down to number 11. That's why our rank has gone up. I do not see a revolt happening any longer. It looks like they just lost all their prestige. They are starting to rebound from it though, so it looks like they just came out of their war, and the situation is a little different. It's still the U.S. It's still the U.S., but it's very much a weaker U.S. than we're used to seeing. There we go. Trench Works is unlocked. So trench infantry as a military unit is available. That's all that one did. Let's see what is the damage on the army side. We'll take a look at 3rd Army. So right now we have 16 infantry battalions here. They are all skirmish infantry. To go to trench infantry, it's ammunition, small arms. So we are definitely going to go for this upgrade. By the way, skirmish has a plus 25 offense, 35 defense, and then 10 on morale loss. Trench, 30 offense, 40 defense, and then just 8 on the morale loss. Alright, we're down to 3 years on the positive stage before it times out, but we have had our first event for it in a long time. Temples of Humanity. It's an event in Eastern Thrace. We can have education access plus qualifications, though radicals, that's decreases. It'll progress by 10, but we're down to 3 years. I think I might actually take that. Otherwise, the armed forces dislike us, but plus 8 drops to a plus 6. That's not bad. But I think we actually have the ability to take it because, I mean, it's been 3.5 years since we even had an event for it. 4 years almost since we've had an event for it. So at that rate, it's going to time out before we even have the next event, or maybe we get one more along the way. That sounds like a good trade-off. Let's see, how good is it going now? Alright, so our infamy is down to that final point. It's nearly gone, 0.6. Keeping an eye on Russia. They definitely have more battalions. They are also seeing a little increase in their strength right now. We need to keep an eye on that, because if they also shoot up, then we're not where we need to be. I think Russia may have added 1 battalion, and that's their slight increase right now, but 16,748. For us, significantly less units, but we're up to 15,500. That's still not enough, and I'm not seeing that tick up any. It is still ticking up a little bit, but right now it's not looking like it's going to be enough. So we are going to have to expand. It looks like through the addition of new regiments, if we are going to eclipse Russia and be able to get into a head-to-head war that we can win. Pretty sure that there's not going to be an issue when it comes to population. Their standard of living, their literacy rates are very low, but yeah, they have population that's 15 million bigger than ours. The education investment finally ticks over. Wow, we're at 37.3 already, 37.4 moments later. We're up over 90 million also, up to 7th in GDP from 8th. I'm going for a big expansion on 3rd Army. We were at 30 of 30. I've added a 2nd General to make it 30 of 60. And we are adding in 15 more infantry units and 10 more Lancers. There's one that has never come together. I think it's in a state that just does not have the population for it. Meanwhile, with the military growth, we've seen our prestige go up by 50 in a very short period of time. So we've made the original mark now. And the other mark continues to rise, but it's only gone up by 10, where we've now, added another 50. So we're less than 60 away at this point. It's the closest we've been from becoming a great power. Looks like education can afford to go up again, as we still have 1,000 bureaucracy available to us. So we're going to go ahead and bring that up another level. Now that Persia likes us, we're up to a 51% chance that they would accept that we would reduce autonomy. It's so close to that being something good. They're loyal, amicable now, but their size makes them resilient. But we are actively adding battalions right now, and we're still number 6, but we're closing in on Russia. We have a border crossing incident with Russia. I do have a couple choices. One of them involves the armed forces not liking us. But 26 infamy to Russia and minus 20 prestige. By the way, we are now just 9 prestige away from great power rank. We are right there, right on the edge of it. Well ahead of Spain now. Well ahead of the US, though they are rebounding well. They were up from 700, a year and a half ago? In terms of GDP, it's the US that we're behind. Belgium, we have surpassed. So Belgium is the one we've recently moved ahead of. Austria-Hungary before that. Russia prior to that. And we're catching the United States. Standard of living, yeah, we're not even anywhere near that chart. We've got a long ways to go there, but population is up to number 7. Standard of living is at 60. It is climbing barely. We're putting a lot into things that will help that standard of living, though. And that GDP is definitely climbing fast. And we're a great power. We are now a great power. There you go. It has not happened for a long time in this playthrough, but we are all the way up to number 6 in the world. Speaking of in the world, we're at 370 battalions. We're up to 17,000 on the army projection. It is still growing as the new regiments are coming in and filling out. We've just completed an expansion of, 22 regiments or something along those lines. Russia, meanwhile, have made small incremental increases, and we are almost level. In fact, it still has them as number 6 and us as number 7, even though we now have a larger power projection. Looks like our job is not quite done. I just bumped our education investment to 3. That's going to help us. We've gained 5 percentage points in 6 years. This is going to make that go even faster. Oman did not have things pan out when it came to Britain trying to turn them into a protectorate as they went into a revolt and Britain just got out of it. Oman has a single battalion. We do not have a truce with them, so we're going to go ahead and take the final Omani state. This time, there's nothing to stop us. We are going to have to invade, though, to make it happen. But we'll see if anyone joins in. Like, say, Afghanistan. That would be very welcome for us. We're already down to 4.7, so the infamy part, easy enough to deal with. We should get an army prepped, though. And we will have to prepare an invasion. Oman did not back down, and they have not been joined by anybody else. So that's making this one a pretty easy what's going to happen. Their single battalion is not going to hold off our invading army of 46 regiments, our Arabian army. We've already got our fleet present. This will be pretty easy here. The invasion begins with our army present. Plus 10% army offense. I'm focusing on that military right now. That's going to make us even stronger. And that was quick. That was quick. We've got it. Meanwhile, the infamy is already down to 2.7. So this will be our region cleaned up, other than, I suppose, Sind. As we can't do anything about Afghanistan. Persia... Well, Persia's the one to watch out for, I suppose, on trying to turn them into a puppet. Working towards that. But I think with all of France's goals, I think I would trade Tripolitania for Sinai, so that we can get that path through there. Armed forces back up over 50% now, by the way. Rural folk, the only ones that don't like us, and it's just a -2. And then just 9 months until positive stage, times out, turning them into a cult. Meanwhile, for the first time, we're up to 11.5 on our standard of living, which is seeing us climb to 54th now. Still not a good number, but it's getting there. It's getting there. It's okay. Even the lower strata is at a 10 now. Coming up on 40% literacy rate. Definitely moving faster here. And up to 109. 95 million on the GDP and climbing. And first time in a while, we are done, or just about done. And look at that. Almost everything has a positive balance. In fact, there's a few industries that are, yikes, way below. The man of wars are no longer necessary, so we do need to turn that off. I think there's one left. So steel holes for all now. And even though we have, say, an oversaturation of clothing, and it's lowering the price, makes it more accessible. It's a good way to bring up the standard of living. But wood and engines, that's about it. And so there's not much of a negative. Opium, that's good. That's sells for a good price, and that'll help raise standard of living, even though it really doesn't. It does the opposite. And Oman capitulates, and then we get war, propaganda, morale loss decreasing on that one. And this is a new state for us, so we'll go ahead and work on incorporating it. And speaking of incorporation, we're at 5 years for that one. This is a state that did not have anything for it regionally. It's the first one, so we are still working on incorporating it, but we're down to 9 years. Everything else, as far as I can tell, is fully incorporated. Everything that we have. 18,000 for that projection. And Russia is 18,000. Hey, we've not quite gotten there. The thing is, a war, we might be able to get France on our side, but at what cost, right? We already lost our Suez Canal short term for that very purpose of getting them into the war and taking what we took here with Russia the last time. And while we're just about 50-50 and we do have a little extra support where Egypt offers nothing, that might give us a slight edge on them, as it were, but I'd like to get that just a little bit ahead. I'd like to beat them, even if it's close. I'd like to be able to know that I can beat them head to head. We got 150k balance, so expanding our military right now is not a bad thing. And we have a lot of infantry regiments. We lack those support units, the cavalry, the artillery, and so I've been working on expanding that here of late. You can see how we have, First Army has 40 regiments, but only roughly 10 and 10. An attempt to get French Sinai so we can do the Suez Canal. So far, there's nothing that we can give up that they would want, because they don't want anything. That's our kind of big option right now. We've hit 60 million for our population as we are growing not quite 1%. I've stayed away from laws for a little bit as things have been calm and settled, and I'm happy with that. But it looks like there's 1 to 2 changes that can be on the way that can definitely push us where we want to go. Landed voting is what we have right now. We can keep our authority, but political strength per vote, threshold. Legitimacy based on government clout drops a bit from 100 to 75, but legitimacy based on votes goes up a lot. Government ideology penalty stays the same. The big thing with the wealth voting is everybody wants it, except, well, not everybody. 3 groups want it desperately. Like, big pluses to the armed forces, who are the ones in power right now, the industrialists and the intelligentsia. The local governors do not want it, but here's the big thing is it's a big step in the right direction. I mean, 3 groups like it, and we got a 40% chance of passing it, and most everybody likes it, where right now a lot of groups do not like that we have landed voting. So this change is definitely a popular one, and while it doesn't alter things much, it definitely puts us in a better position. Ooh, just like that, we slip back to number 7. The U.S., there you go. U.S. has rebounded. U.S. has rebounded from their 700 prestige after their humiliation or something in their, 2. They're back-to-back. That should not change our threshold. Ooh, it's raising the threshold right now. So our major power, our great power rank, is slightly in jeopardy right now. That'll be something to watch out for, as the U.S. is still gaining back the prestige they lost after their revolt. They had been a few hundred points ahead of us before, but we've gained a couple hundred ourselves, so I'm guessing we're going to be 100 to 200 behind by the time they stop gaining. But positive stage, it's about to time out. And there it is, a peculiar cult. Another grand design faded into obscurity. Armed forces losing 10%. They will no longer be more likely to have positivist characters. I like that. Or just -5 political strength. I want to get those positive characters away, so we'll hurt the armed forces in the short term for that long-term benefit. And we're still working on that military expansion just a little bit. We have 0 infamy right now, so we could definitely make a move if all goes according to plan. We've topped 40% in literacy, but we're almost at 100 in GDP. We were just over 75. We had 77 at the start of the episode, so we've gained 20 million in GDP just in 7 years. 7 years, we've picked up 20 million. We've also gone from an 11 flat, I think, to an 11.5 in standard of living, and we've gone from about 55 million maybe 56, up to 60 million now. Definitely having that population grow. The radicals have stayed relatively the same, as have the loyalists, hovering right about a million and right about 8 million. But we're definitely seeing growth, especially in that literacy, which went from 33 to 41. That's an 8% increase in 7 years. Definitely taking up faster than it was before. We were just shy of 1% a year. Now we're just in excess of 1 per year, having a broader education access from 10% to 30% is really helping out with that. Our rank temporarily was up to 6th, but that was because the U.S. had a bit of a downfall. We're back to 7, but we have become a great power once again, and for the first time since the early days of the playthrough. Spain was somebody we caught and passed up in this episode, and we've left them in the dust. We're over 300 ahead. Meanwhile, Belgium has actually caught up to them. British Raj was one we overtook the episode prior. So us and Belgium seem to be on a rapid rise. Belgium is just behind us on GDP. As small as they are, that's amazing that they have that level of GDP. Their standard of living is it the highest? Highest in the world. It is highest in the world. So there's Belgium's claim to fame. They've got a very high standard of living and a very high GDP relative to a population of just 14 million, 16th largest. I don't see them reaching great power status, though, just because of how small they are, right? They are shining. They are a beacon of light in so many respects, but I doubt that they have a particularly powerful military. No, half of what we have. But the big goal here lately was eclipsing Russia's military, holding at 18-2. We have added 40 battalions now, and we have 18-4. So we've gone from 16 to 18,000. That's a big increase. We have passed Russia, but it's barely have we passed them right now. And that's why I'm not quite ready. We are almost ready. I mean, the infamy is ready. I know that we have got to have a much stronger military than they have. We have 47 million in gold reserves, and with that positive balance, like, we can have our entire army mobilized and still be a fairly neutral balance. So we can afford a major war with Russia. Egypt, their ally, has 5 battalions. They will be so easy to defeat. We don't get to see them here, but Serbia, Wallachia, Moldavia, you got 29 for Moldavia. Wallachia has 6. Serbia has 23. Tripolitania, well, they don't have any right now. Persia would not join in. Possibly would join in. Possibly. So we have a little added strength from puppets. That's not counted in that general strength. That does make us naturally that little bit stronger than Russia with the strength of the economy and whatnot. So just a little bit more. I'd like to have just that slight edge over Russia, so it's not a total stalemate. But if our economy is way stronger than their economy, again, Russia's number 5. They're definitely ahead on prestige, but we're 25 billion ahead on GDP, where we were only just ahead before. They've not changed much at all. In fact, look at their GDP. It's where it was. So we went from 5 million ahead to 25 million ahead. We've pulled ahead of them by 20 million. That's a big step. Their standard of living is very low and actually has not increased at all. Their population, which once was much larger than ours, it's now just 15 million. But that means they have bodies. They have bodies to recover their armed forces, and we will take losses. So where they might be short on supply and could struggle to keep their army going with a relative weaker economy, we could have problems with replacing our losses. So I still want to have a little bit more of an edge before we commit to war with Russia, but it's definitely the direction we're headed, quite possibly within the next episode. But that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.